Let's ask that question to our first guest of the day, Blaine Fowler. Blaine, welcome back to BYU Sports Nation, man.
What's going on? I'm so excited that my nephew is on the show with you, Spencer. That's cool.
Uncle B, it's a pleasure to hear your voice, and it's always good to interview family. It's just it takes the show to a whole nother level.
I want to know if my nephew's been working now so that we can, because I want those arms to be looking good by the time we start our after further review.
So right now, this looks really good. It looks like I just popped open a can of spinach and took some, because you could look at my bicep, right? It looked like Popeye. You see that?
Nice.
You can't see it.
That's what I'm talking about.
I'll tweet you a picture so you can see that.
Okay. I just finished working out with my boys. I got everybody home this week, and so my son-in-law is Dallas Lloyd, who's got a good chance to start at strong safety for Stanford this year. I just ran he and Gavin. Gavin, as you guys know, rehabbing from ACL injury that he did in the last day of spring ball at BYU. So I ran them both through some serious circuit training this morning, and we all got a good pump. So I was thinking, man, I wonder if my nephew B. Logan is on the show and if he's keeping pace with it. That's important to me.
Blaine, I'm ready. I'm ready for the slim fit suits. Countdown to kickoff. We'll see.
Oh my goodness.
We'll have the bicep show come first game for Nebraska.
Okay, time out.
That's what I'm talking about.
It's time to put on the psychological circuit training here. Okay, just slow your roll with the biceps, Brian. And Blaine, let's get to today's Twitter question. This is an intriguing topic because of what was said about Paul Asike over the weekend. But Blaine, who is your guy as an underdog out of the 6 undrafted free agent BYU rookies to make an NFL roster this season?
Well, and if you're saying Paul Asike is not an underdog, I think he still is, just because he's so young to the game of football. But I don't know that he's an underdog, because I think that he's almost a shoo-in, because they're going to look at him and they're going to say, boy, he hasn't played football that long. Not only is he good right now, and not only does he bring a physical presence to an offense that likes to use a fullback, but his upside potential is outstanding. And sometimes with rookies, that's as important as anything else. And so let's just say this a given that Paul Asike has a great shot, and we won't call him an underdog. And so my number 2 after Paul then would have to be Jordan Leslie. I think that Jordan, the way that he meticulously pays attention to all the little things, I think is going to impress people. And he's going to have an opportunity to show that he can be an unbelievable route runner. And he can get open, and I love the fact that he's got some of the best hands that I've seen in a long, long time, and I think that that's going to get him on a roster before it's all said and done.
Uncle B, let's fast forward to next year, 2016. There's a few players that we have been talking about, like Taysom and maybe Mitch and Bronson Kafusi, as far as getting drafted. How many BYU players do you think will be drafted next season?
This is a hard thing, you guys, because when I start thinking about NFL bodies and NFL potential, and I think through who's playing at BYU, I come up with almost all underclassmen, which is great. That's a good thing for BYU. When you look at the 2016 schedule and how crazy that is, then you're happy about that. But I think next year, you mentioned, I think there's maybe 3 or 4 that will get drafted next year as all. Bronson Kafusi, Taysom Hill, Mitch Matthews has a chance, depending on how Jamal comes back from that injury, possibility. Maybe one of the senior linemen. But the NFL picks are younger players for BYU. Let's think about the guys with NFL bodies. I think Kyle Johnson is going to be a really good NFL lineman. He's an underclassman.
Yep.
What about Travis Tuiloma? I think he can play. Underclassman. Sione Takitaki, underclassman. Fred Warner, underclassman. Harvey Lange, underclassman. And then you look in the secondary. Mike Davis can run well enough. Maybe Jordan Prater. I don't know. And I think the real dark horse that before it's all said and done may be able to play safety in the NFL is Micah Hanneman. And so all of those guys are underclassmen that I just mentioned. And they all, to me, as I look at them, I go, NFL bodies, NFL speed, but they're underclassmen. And so I think BYU's draft class grows in the next couple years. And next year, you still got a lot of young guys on that roster that are the most talented guys, but won't be coming out next year.
College football and BYU insider, national champion quarterback Blaine Fowler with us on BYU Sports Nation, talking about undrafted free agents. Who's the underdog pick? He says it's Jordan Leslie. Now we look even more closely at this year's actual BYU team that they'll put on the field in under 5 weeks, Blaine. But before they get underway with game number 1, all of the preseason projections come out. ESPN just listed Taysom Hill 81st in their top 100 college football players. Your reaction to Taysom being listed at number 81 in the 100 best college football players according to ESPN?
See, that's simply a product of out of sight, out of mind. And so he wasn't on the field at the end of the year last year. Remember, he caught the imagination of the entire country just a couple of games into the season.
Yep.
He has the chance to do that again with the schedule they play. With this schedule in September, if he goes out and dominates the way he did, all of a sudden he's right up in the top 10 guys in the country. Just bam, overnight, just like that. Because he's going to play against NFL-caliber defenses, with players, not NFL caliber as a whole defense, but with players that have NFL talent. And if he can make them look silly the way he made people look silly when he was healthy, all of a sudden everybody's going, oh, my goodness, this guy is back. He's ridiculous. He's the most athletic guy in the field in every game he's in. If those kinds of things start to be talked about again, all of a sudden he's launched right back into the public eye. So it doesn't surprise me that he's way down the list because that's how people are. If you're not out there and you're not playing, you're not producing, they forget about you really fast. But just like that, you can get back into the national conscience if you play well in those first 4 games.
Uncle B, I'm going to throw you a real juicy question right here. Speaking of Heisman, in 2015, would you rather Taysom Hill win the Heisman or BYU go to a New Year's Six game?
Oh, geez, go to a New Year's Six game. Not even close.
What?
That's an easy one.
Really?
Come on. You know what? And here's the thing. Those two would kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah, true.
Because if BYU comes out of September 3-1 or 4-0, and now they're in that talk about a New Year's Six, and then they go on a big run, they beat Missouri, and they play what I think is going to be a tough game toward the end of the year, Utah State.
Oh, yeah.
If they do that, then they're going to be talking about Taysom Hill as a Heisman Trophy candidate because BYU's going to come out of nowhere, and he's going to be the guy that's going to be triggering that. So those two things go hand in hand. And I think first they have to be great as a team for them to be talking about that with Taysom. So they kind of go together. But if I'm picking, I want him in the New Year's Six because I want that program back in the national spotlight. And if they are, he'll be talked about all he needs to. The problem is, for him to win a Heisman this year, I look at the quarterbacks nationally that are coming back this year. And, quarterback is always a real visible position when we start talking Heisman. And you got Cordell Jones and Braxton Miller back at Ohio State. Cody Kessler's at USC, who should be top 5. Dak Prescott's back at Mississippi State. Boykin's back at TCU. Jared Goff at Cal's a tremendous quarterback. Connor Cook's back at Michigan State. I just start thinking around the country at the quarterbacks that are coming back that they're already talking about in the top 15. So it's hard to overcome that. If one of those guys has an amazing season, say Cody Kessler just goes off and USC's playing for a national championship, it's hard for him where he's coming from early in the season for Taysom to pass him by. So if they just focus on getting to New Year's Six, then who cares if Taysom wins the Heisman? If he ends up being in New York and sitting there in a seat, whether he gets that Heisman or not, it means that BYU's playing in the New Year's Six Bowl, and that would be tremendous.
Okay, let's stay with the projection theme. And for me, I don't really care all that much about preseason rankings. I think it's fun. It gives the media something to talk about and, a place to start for college football fans when they're wanting to garner interest in which games they should watch early in the season. But for BYU, they received less votes in the first poll than all 3 of their rivals, Boise State, Utah, and Utah State. How much stock do you place in BYU receiving less votes than all 3 of their rivals, Blaine?
Yeah, I don't think that preseason really means much of anything other than you finished strong the year before. That's what it means because everybody's basing it on how you finished the year before and who they project is coming back. For Utah, Utah has an interesting case this year. I think it's the best team Kyle's had up on the Hill since he's been in the Pac-12. But I also think that USC, UCLA are both significantly better this year than they were last year. And their crossover games are against brutally tough teams. Oregon, they got to go play. I don't think Oregon's as good as they've been, but they're still really, really tough.
They're still Oregon.
Yeah, so Utah, before it's all said and done, they may be better than they were last year and have a worse record when the season is over. And then Utah State, to me, isn't it always a given that Utah State, ever since Gary Anderson was there, that they're going to be good defensively? So people put a lot of stock in that. They play in a league where they don't have too many tough, difficult games. They got a couple a year. And if Chucky can stay healthy and beat Chucky, then all of a sudden that becomes a really good team that maybe can win 10 games this season. So I think the faith in Utah State is well-founded. I think Utah's better than they've been, but that's a tough one. They could be better and have a worse record. And nobody knows what to expect from BYU because you got your top running back coming back from an injury, your Heisman Trophy candidate a year ago quarterback coming back from an injury, one of your top receivers in Nick Kurtz coming back from an injury. You're really young on the defensive side of the ball. So people don't know, and they don't watch them as closely as we do through spring ball to understand that from a talent perspective, this should be a really good team for BYU. I think offensively they're going to be significantly better than last year. And, heck, if they were just mediocre defensively last year, they would have won a couple more games. So if that defense can come together and be where they're supposed to be, and if Brian and I aren't talking in Week 10 after further review like we were last year about blown assignments defensively,
right.
then this BYU team has a chance to overachieve what their preseason expectations are. And it is about that, huh, Brian? I mean, we were so frustrated watching film last year. We're 10 weeks in, and guys are making the same mistakes on the defensive side of the ball. So if they can clean that up and be decent defensively, which I think they can, then this team is better than they were last year. Now, like Utah, the schedule is a lot tougher. They got to come out of if they can come out of September even 2-2, then I think they're on a roll and they're gonna have a really, really good season. If they come out of there 3-1, then oh boy, we're in for a really, really fun ride the rest of the season.
BYU reports on Friday. They open fall camp practice on Saturday. We will see a lot of Blaine Fowler around as the Cougars gear up for game number 1 against Nebraska. Blaine, great stuff. Always nice to talk to you.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you next week.